Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters at 10. My name is Paul Meyert. I'll be your host today. Morning Matters at 10 is part of the Acts 17 Accord, a ministry dedicated to preparing God's people to live righteous, spirit-filled lives to the end of the age. Our mission is to come alongside of the church and assist in training and equipping believers to do the works that God has called them to do. Today, we're going to start a new series here. The most important question, we're going to talk about the most important question in the world. There's really two of them that need to be known. Number one, does God exist? Secondly, what is God like? Now, understand that when we go through some of these things, if you're a believer, you probably already have your views and understandings of it. But I think it's important that people understand why they believe it. You may already believe and have great faith in God and a great relationship, but God wants you to know why you believe, and that's my goal. I'm a music teacher as well. I've taught piano for years and years. And when I teach somebody piano, there's a number of different approaches, but there's certain things that are just foundational. The first thing you have to know is the names of the notes, how to find them, right? You can just sit out and play things, and that's okay too. But eventually you need to know where C is, where F is, where A is. You got two black notes, three black, you go through this whole logical process. So for me, when I talk about bringing certain foundational truths back to the world, it always starts with God. And it is the most important question in the world. Most people have answered these questions. What is God? Does God exist and what is he like? Most people have answered these questions. They know what they believe. But there's, especially about God's existence, probably 85% believe that God exists. But most people are confused about what God is like. There's what's his nature? Who is he? Is he good? Is he evil? Is he indifferent? Is he absent, caring, loving? Malevolence, who is God? Is he, biased, so we know God exists, but what is he really like? There's a great confusion as to who he is and what he's like. Different religions, different kinds of gods. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a famous astrophysicist, once said, well, I believe that I could see myself running to the gray-haired man in the sky, a God of order and beauty, but not the one who killed the Philistines and can't protect his creation from tornadoes and earthquakes and things of that. So this is his view of God. He may believe in a God, he's not committed one way or the other, but he's open to the idea of God, but not a God that he wants to define what God is like. Well, that's not really that important what he's like. Well, it is important what he's like, but we have to first answer, does God exist? So everything begins with God. His existence and his nature are the most important questions we can ever answer. And if we get those things right, then a lot of things are going to start falling into place. The answer to these questions cannot be provided by religion or science. This may be a surprise to you, especially the scientists, but even religious people. You cannot prove God's existence. I cannot prove as an absolute scientific fact that God exists, because it's not a scientific question. Neither science nor religion can prove that God exists. In fact, the question is not a religious or scientific question. It is philosophical. Atheists, agnostics, educational elites, and religious leaders often misunderstand the difference between science and philosophy, between philosophy and religion, and between religion and a personal relationship with the Creator, which I will just say to you today, that is the purpose for your existence, is to know God. It's the most important thing in your life ever. It is commonly believed that science and scientists are smarter and better than religion and religious leaders. Scientists are put on this pedestal as wonderful people. Well, remember, scientists invented the atom bomb. Scientists and Nazi scientists had all kinds of experiments. People have done lots of things in the name of science that are not good. Every weapon created by mankind was made by a scientist or an engineer or someone of that nature. So it's not about better one or the other. Lots of bad things have been done by lots of bad people. They believe that science can unlock the secrets to the existence of the universe and all living things. However, neither science nor scientists can prove or disprove the existence of the Creator. They just can't do it. They have personal opinions like everyone else, and they may discover how the universe was created. It's conceivable it was created by the Big Bang. I don't believe that, but it's conceivable. But it cannot prove the who or why of creation. Who put the pieces in place, the elements in place, that gravity and electromagnetism and the strong and the weak nuclear forces, who put those in place so that there could be this creation of the world? Recently, Michio Kaku, a famed co-inventor of the string theory, admitted that science cannot prove or disprove the existence of God. He says, my own point of view is that you can neither prove nor disprove the existence of God. Let me just put that on the screen for you. Okay? He says, my own point of view is that you can neither prove nor disprove the existence of God. Science is based on what is testable, reproducible, and falsifiable. That's called science. However, there are certain things that are not testable, not reproducible, and not falsifiable. And that would include the existence of God. So when people talk about, God's existence, they're, especially the scientific part of the community, the scientists that talk about this, scientists talk about this, they're believing they can do this. But even Michio Kaku honestly says we can't prove it. You can't put God in a test tube. Now understand this, belief in the Creator does not make a person religious or moral. It is simply a rational, philosophical explanation for the existence of the universe and all living things. Being religious does not make you righteous, or that you are make you better than someone who doesn't believe, or that your political and social views are correct. It's simply a philosophy. It doesn't change how you behave at all. On the other hand, to deny the existence of a Creator does not mean that you are intellectually superior to those who do believe. Not believing does not mean you're more objective and smarter than those who believe. It only means that you have no explanation for the cause of the Big Bang, the multiverse, or how matter came into being. You must feign indifference and assume a magical beginning for all things. You have no explanation other than it always existed. That's irrational. Knowing the Creator and having a relationship with Him again is the goal. Assuming a Creator exists and is all-powerful, loving, and cares about us, you may want to consider getting to know this person. I would say this to every human being on the face of the earth. If you had any idea what God was really like, and you weren't confused by science and religion and philosophy and all the things that people have done in history, you would lose everything you have. You would run directly into the arms of God and just worship Him and want to be with Him. Not that He makes you worship, but you would just automatically worship. You would bow down. He's so amazing. He's a great God. He's very good. Anyway, if you get hung up on science, philosophy, or religion, you've missed the point. You're not asking the right questions. You're not solving things that need to be solved. You must decide. This is the final question. This is the real question we have to answer. You must decide philosophically, what is the best explanation for the existence of the heavens and earth and all living things? It's a decision that you have to make. And you can argue one way or the other, but that's what you're asking. You're not asking are the Baptists right, or the Catholics, or the Buddhists, or the, Confucianism, none of those. That's not the question. Is science right? It doesn't matter. It's not the question. Science can't do it. So, can we be sure God exists? I say yes. In fact, it's a pretty simple question and answer. You don't need a degree from Harvard. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to be a pastor or a religious leader. In fact, most people have it right. They believe God exists. The existence of God is an axiom. It's a self-evident truth. It's just it's self-evident. The universe is either caused or uncaused. Carl Sagan, the late Carl Sagan, said, well, what we know about the laws of physics now, there was absolutely nothing for God to do. Really? Somehow those laws of physics came into being on their own? They're still entities. They're still beliefs. They're still structures. It had to come from somewhere. There was everything for God to do. He just did it all before you got on the scene, Carl. He did it before we were all here. We don't know. We can't see what He did. All we can see is the fact that He did it. We can't see how He did it, but we can just see the fact that it's done. The question is ultimately the universe is either caused or uncaused. And I think an uncaused universe is irrational. You can ask, where's the evidence for a Creator? Look outside. The heavens, look at your body. Look outside, look around you. The heavens and the earth and all living things are the evidence for a Creator. They're not evidence that He created right now, that He's creating right now. They're evidence that He created in the past. The car in my driveway is evidence that somebody in Detroit built that car. There was a machine. It could have been a robot. It could have been people, a combination of things. Somebody got the metal together. They melted it. They shaped it. They did all of the things to make a car, all the electrical wires, everything that's there. All of that was put together. That's evidence of a car creator. Now, it's not creation in the same sense because it didn't come from nothing. They took the elements that were already on the earth and they had the intelligence to do that. And that's great. I'm glad they made a car. I like driving rather than walking. Point of it is, though, it was made by someone. The car is evidence of its creation. The same thing is true of everything on the face of the earth. Everything was made. Even if you can't see how it was made, or if you can't see its purpose, it was still created. The existence of the Creator is the only rational explanation for the existence of matter, which the heavens and earth and all life forms are made of. So why do people really disagree? What is it that people disagree with? Why don't they believe in God? Now, there's lots of reasons. And personal suffering, unanswered prayers, abuse from religious leaders, the truth of science. Science says there's not God, so I believe there's not God. I can explain the universe without God. No, you can't. You can explain a process, but you can't explain God. Or you can't explain the universe itself. The influence of a professional teacher, or philosopher, lack of a father sometimes can do it. A rebellious heart. People don't want to believe in God. They don't want to be answerable to someone. I had a experience a number of years ago. I was in the sauna, and I'm a big hot sauna person. I like to go into the sauna. I like it when it's 200 degrees, and I've gotten to the point where I can stay there a long time. I haven't been there much lately, but when I go, I could stay for an hour and 45 minutes. 45 minutes to an hour. And, I go and get a drink of water and have water with me, but I could stay there a long time. Anyway, side point. Anyway, I walk into the sauna, and as I walk in, there's a lady to my left, and she's got headphones on, her eyes are closed, just had "Do Not Disturb" written all over her. And on the left also, before that, there was a young man. And I went over and sat down, and he was probably in his 20s, and we talked about God and Christianity and things for about 20 minutes. He said, "Man, I got to go." He gets out. Now, I didn't skip a beat. As soon as he walked out. Now, mind you, this woman has never looked at me. I've been watching her the whole time. And she's in her 40s, late 30s, 40s. And I look over at her and I go, "Well, what do you think?" Again, she's giving me no indication she's listening. So I might have been talking to myself. But she turns to me and looks at me and says, "Well, I don't believe in God." And she started to tell me all these logical reasons why she didn't believe in God. And so we had a little discussion, and I just stopped. Just felt the Holy Spirit told me to stop. And I looked at her and I said, "What's the real reason? What really happened?" And then she tells me her story. Of a family of 8, she's the only one that survived in a car wreck. She had a 16-year-old son who recently died from cancer. And she was obviously devastated. And I just stopped. I mean, I literally I could hardly breathe. Her story affected me. And I was just like, wow. And I didn't know what to say. I just sat there and I was praying. And then I told her, I said, "Listen, I want you to know a couple things. I don't believe God killed your family, and I don't believe he killed your son. I don't believe that was his best will for you or his perfect will for you. And I'm sorry for your loss." And, it just was being compassionate. It was real. I was crying. It touched me very deeply. And then I asked her, I looked at her, I said, "Do you mind if I pray for you?" And she said, "No." She said, "Yes, you can pray." She didn't mind. She said, "Yes, you can pray for me." So I prayed for her. And, I just prayed that God would reveal himself to her and that God would change her life and bring, good things into her, get her to know Jesus and all that. And she left, and I never saw her again, but it struck me, and it put me in a place to understand, there's lots of logical arguments for God or not God and all that stuff, but it's really about emotional and personal things. There's an article I ran across the other day, 12 atheists, who, why they don't believe in God. One believed, Lucas said, that he'd prayed for years and years and God never answered his prayer. And he finally said, "Well, what's the use of God if he doesn't answer his prayer?" Hard question. I don't know why God didn't answer his prayer, but that's not the point. The question is there a God to pray to? And of course, there has to be some sort of a being that made everything. There has to be. So again, we're talking about what's God like. So really the answer to almost every one of these problems is, what is God like, not whether he exists. Other one questions, why did God allow evil to come in the world? How could he do that? Why did he allow that? Well, simple question, simple answer is free will. He gave the angels a choice. He gave humanity a choice, and we chose wrong. And the consequences are what he promised would happen, but he's a consistent father and said, "This is going to happen, it's going to happen," and it did. But that's only a small portion as a quick answer to a deep, deep question. Others believe that all religions are all the same. Religions were used to explain things that we don't understand, a comet maybe, or, things that are in the sky. And so everybody was superstitious and stupid. And it's like, well, that really doesn't, first of all, fit with history. Somebody built the pyramids and it wasn't aliens. The things that we've found in the aqueducts and the things that Rome built, and just throughout history, the things that have been done. There's so many great things that were created long before, modern man. And I think the people before us were not stupid at all. So they weren't just primitive. There was some superstition, but there's always superstition, and but that's not an excuse for God not existing. In other words, you still can't explain where matter came from. Even if I can explain how matter was shaped, they can't tell you why or how. Others have to do with morality. Why would you obey God out of the idea of, this one said, celestial rewards or the fear of eternal punishment? Well, that's not really the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is, have you done things and I done things that we shouldn't have done? Have we broken what would be, and this guy says he wants them to be innate laws in humanity. Well, I believe there are innate laws in humanity. The Bible talks about the law of God being written on our heart, every human heart, right? God wrote that on our heart. So there's no innate laws of humanity that humanity came up with. No, these are things that God put in us. Again, so you want to have that. How did it happen? How would nothing produce all of these laws? And I don't obey them just because God might punish me. Even though I know I'm going to get punished, I still disobey sometimes. I do things I shouldn't do. Same with driving my car. I know I'm going to get a ticket if I speed too much. I do it because I'm in a hurry, right? So it's not about that. The point of it is, have we broken God's laws? Or two things. Point is, are there laws that we should obey that are God's, right? Have you ever told a lie? Yeah, I've lied. What does it make me a liar? Well, have you lied? Yeah, I bet you have. I bet you've stolen something sometime in your life. It makes you a thief, right? Slept with someone that you weren't married to. I didn't, but you might have. I could have lusted after, probably did lust after women, and so I broke that law too in my heart. The point of it is that the laws of God, we obey them. They're important because they're God's laws. And when you break them, there is punishment for breaking laws, just as there is in our government. Even if you don't get caught, you may get away with it, but you don't get away with it with God. So it's not about fear and doing it out of just eternal reward or punishment, but we obey him because our hearts are changed and we want to obey him. There's something different. Greta talked about a lack of empirical evidence. Faith appears to be built on a tradition and emotion rather than verifiable facts. Again, what verifiable facts? What verifiable facts that science come up that prove there's not a God? Nothing. Maybe how it was made, not that he didn't exist. This one finds evidence in supporting evolution. It's more coherent and a better explanation. It doesn't change anything. Evolution means nothing. It could be how God did things, but it doesn't prove he exists or doesn't exist. What prove he exists is matter. This one, Stephen, he emphasizes he wants individuals to live in reality and not live in the nether land and by and by. Well, there's lots of reasons to be discouraged. Life is very hard, very difficult. Not having a belief in a creator, I think, gives your life hopelessness and no meaning. There is no meaning. In fact, if there's not a creator, there's no meaning. There's no purpose. You're animated dust. When you die, you will die, and everything that with you will never see again or have any relationship with at all. There's several here. I don't want to go into too much time into all of these. Why this James grapples with the idea of an all-powerful deity meeting eternal punishments for finite transgression, highlighting the logical gaps in such beliefs. Well, the problem is, again, what is God like? Is God going to punish that? Well, that's a question about his nature. That's a question that has nothing to do with his existence. And as far as an answer to it, well, maybe things are more important and more serious to God than we think they are to us. Other questions have to do with the scriptures. Can we believe in the Bible or can we believe in the Quran? Can we, there's lots of things that are inconsistent, they say. And this one says this, Steve says, if he were truly the author of the Bible, it would probably be way less filled with atrocities, contradictions, plagiarisms, and absurdities. Okay, so what he doesn't believe is any miracles, anything supernatural, so he's going to reject that. Contradictions have almost all been figured out and why they're not actual contradictions. I don't know any, not any real contradictions. I don't know any plagiarisms. Considering that our only real knowledge on the subject comes from the unverifiable personal experience or ancient books of mythology, which can be proven to be nonsense. They can't be proven to be nonsense. In fact, the opposite is true. The evidence for the historical reliability of the scriptures is amazing. Amazing. That's a whole nother story. Again, neither one prove God's existence. The Bible doesn't prove God's existence directly, although it's one reason why I believe in the God of the Bible, because of what it says about us. It doesn't lie. It doesn't hide the bad things that people do, that its heroes do. Anyway, okay, so these are kind of reasons. There's lots of reasons. They have to do with science. They have to do with personal feelings. They have to do with misunderstandings about what the life is like, judgment, all of those sort of things. Valid reasons, valid questions. Every one of them need to be answered. Every one of them can be answered. And we'll try to talk about as many of them as we possibly can in some detail. But for right now, we understand we're still dealing with, does God exist? And the Bible says this. God said, he says, for what can be known about God is plain to humanity, because God has shown it to us. His invisible attributes. See, God is invisible to us. Now, if we were in the spirit realm, we could see he's a spirit. He's not a human being. God is not a man. Jesus became a man, but he was still the eternal, invisible God. And he joined his spirit. Can you see your spirit? Well, I don't believe I have one. Well, of course you do. Anyway, can you see it? Can you see anyone else's spirit? No, you can't see it. They're invisible to us because they live in a different dimension. The spirit dimension is different. In humanity, we have the spirit man together, right? But God's invisible. His invisible attributes, namely his eternal power, he had to always exist, and his divine nature have been clearly seen for that which is made, so that men are without excuse. So it's seen, it's clear. So having said all of this kind of by way of introduction, let me give you 5 reasons, 5 proofs. The following 5 proofs are built upon each other. They're combined, they are irrefutable proof of God's existence. I believe this, that there are 5 things that show us that a creator must exist in what, to some degree, is like, and how all of life fits together around the idea of God. Evidence number 1. Now, we've talked about this already several times. I'm going to say it again. Logically, okay, evidence 1, matter exists. Logically, we know that something always existed. If there was ever nothing, there would always be nothing. Imagine there is no creator, no matter, no pre-atomic materials, no forces, quarks, particulates, nothing, absolutely nothingness. If that condition, no creator, nothing, there's nothing. If this condition ever existed, there would never be anything. Nothingness cannot produce something. Can't produce anything. If there's nothing, there's always nothing. Unless you believe in magic, that everything that exists magically appeared on its own. It just happened, right? Okay. All right, within this evidence, 3 options exist. Number 1, matter created itself. That means matter is eternal and always existed, right? It always existed. Pre-atomic material always existed and shaped and designed itself into all living things, all things living in an earth. Same would be true of matter. It shaped itself and designed itself into all living things. So, but we only know it as matter, so it always existed as matter. The universe always existed, and then, again, how? How does that happen? The third reason is that a creator made it possible. So the question we have to answer is this: can matter be its own cause? Is this possible? Not in my mind. No, matter is not magic. Atoms, molecules, light, energy, innumerable particles are real. The creation of matter requires intelligence, will, and ability. Matter would have to be intelligent and capable of causing itself to come into existence. Is that what you're telling me? That the atom made itself? Really? And there's no intelligence, there's no being or intelligence behind it? That's nonsense. Capable, so matter would have to be capable, cause itself to come into existence, capable of shaping and designing itself, planning and executing its own creation. Matter would need to be powerful enough to stretch the universe into existence and somehow create life. I'm sorry, this is impossible. That's why Michio Kaku and a lot of these guys who've always been atheists, when they start looking at the DNA and what they know about it and all the things in the universe, they just go, it's not possible. It's not possible. It didn't happen on its own. It was created. That's why they believe in a creator now. God of beauty and order, not judgment, but they believe in a creator. This is impossible. It's impossible. Matter is a non-living entity that was shaped and formed by something other than itself, period. The amount of matter in the universe is incalculable. Calculable. The sheer volume of matter was caused by someone or something. Could pre-atomic matter be eternal and be the cause of all things? This is just as impossible for the same reasons. It's even more impossible. In both cases, you have to explain how the matter or pre-atomic matter material got there, who made the matter, and how did it get shaped again. And how was it shaped and formed into all inert and living things? To reject a creator is to believe in magic, that somehow the universe and all living things magically appeared on their own for no reason without help from an intelligent, powerful being. Okay? It's not conceivable. It's not possible for that to happen. It would be magic. The only rational explanation left is that a creator planned, shaped, designed, and caused all things to come into existence. Of course, the natural question is, where did the creator come from? Well, there's only one option. There's only one possible answer to that. The creator always existed because something had to always exist. If it's not matter, it had to be the creator. This is called logic. This is a philosophical explanation for things, right? There's always a first cause. The first cause has to be the creator because it couldn't happen otherwise. It's foolishness to believe that. The creator must have always existed. So theism, the belief that God exists, is a So theism is a philosophical belief based on logic and prima facie evidence. The existence of matter and living things are proof of a creator, just as the existence of a house is prima facie evidence of a builder. The house did not build itself. Living things and the universe did not create themselves. It is irrational and impossible. It just didn't happen. Now, you can believe it if you want. I'm not expecting atheists to necessarily agree with me, but the truth is, I think it's irrational. Secondly, evidence two, matter is shaped and designed. Now, I find it hard to believe, but there are scientists out there that don't believe that anything was shaped or designed. It's like nothing was designed. I mean, I truly don't even understand that concept. It's just foolishness to me. But we know matter is shaped. Why do we know matter is shaped? Well, number one, the atom is shaped. Are atoms shaped? Yeah, they're little circles, as we can see them, whatever they are, right? They have protons, neutrons, electrons, positive, negative charge. They have a certain number. Each element has a certain number of protons and neutrons, and they all work together. Some are stable, some are unstable, but they're all designed. They're all the same. You don't get one atom and that's it. You get a gold atom, there's just one. No, there's innumerable numbers of gold atoms, diamond atoms, human atoms. I mean, everything is atoms. They're all designed. I mean, am I designed? Am I shaped? Did I just happen? I may not look great to some of you, but the point, I think I'm good looking. I think I'm okay, right? The point of it is I'm shaped, I'm designed. In my life, my hands work, my feet, it's all shaped and designed. The nature of matter, okay. Well, the existence of matter demands a creator, a cause beyond itself. The nature of matter demands an intelligent, powerful, capable creator. Everything in the universe has a shape. From atoms and molecules to the sun, moon, stars, the planets, the trees, the bushes, the leaves, the grass, water, raindrops, almonds, cashews, wheat, flowers, rocks, and minerals of all kinds. Some shapes are blobs. But a blob is a random, undefined shape. That's how you define it. All living things are shaped distinctly from one another. A mouse from a rat from a snake, a horse from a cow, and a man from a chimpanzee. Everything is uniquely shaped and made to be what it is. People always talk about men coming from apes. Well, what's wrong with being an ape? Why did we need to come from them? That's just, again, a theory that ignores the existence of a creator who made things individually as they are, using DNA, similar DNA, but still, he made them all. They're all individuals. So we know matter is shaped. Everything is shaped. Secondly, matter is designed. However, matter is not only shaped, it is designed, engineered for a specific purpose. The purposes may be unknown, but they relate directly to the external shape and internal design. Now, I like this illustration because Richard Dawkins, in his book, The Blind Watchmaker, talks about bats, the nocturnal type. And he talks about them that, there were so many animals feasting in the daytime that they couldn't survive, so they decided to go at night, and they developed sonar, blinded themselves, developed sonar, and were able to survive at night. So, it's not a baseball bat; it's a bat. He believes this. He goes into great detail concerning the intelligence of and its evolutionary beginnings. He said this. Let me put this on the screen for you here. Let's go up here. If you saw an object shaped like a bat on the ground, and most people would recognize what it was. If you examined the bat closely and discovered that it was a rubber toy, you would realize that there is much more to a bat's design than its shape. The inner structure of a bat is equally as important as its outer shape. It must have muscles and bones that support its weight. Without a small brain that allows it to fly and a sonar system, it would walk around on its legs and probably eat or die of starvation. The bat's highly developed sonar system allows it to fly in the dark night and in caves without running into walls or other objects. Dawkins attributes the nocturnal activity of the bat to his belief that there were too many animals already hunting in the daytime. There was not enough food for the bats, so they decided to fly at night when it was less populated. Of course, they had a problem how to fly at night, so the bats decided to develop sonar so they could fly at night, and then proceeded to do so. Richard Dawkins, a blind watchmaker, All right, I quoted this from my book also. All right, I'm sorry. Sorry. Self-designed bats are nonsense. Self-designed bats do not have the brain power or will to make these choices or the ability to change themselves. God created bats with the qualities we see today. Now, things may have changed over time. The creation gets less and less perfect, but the structural design of all things is proof. But God created bats with the capabilities we see today. The structural design of all things is proof that an intelligent, capable being created, shaped. Sorry, you move your mouse sometimes. Created, shaped, and designed all things for a specific reason and a specific purpose. Let me read that again. The structural design of all things is proof that an intelligent, capable person or being created, shaped, and designed matter. Evidence 3. Matter gives everything meaning. Shape and design equal meaning and purpose. Everything, again, is shaped, designed, and created was done so for a purpose. The purpose of the sun is evident, keeping Earth from being a deep freezer and destroying everything on the planet. It's a circle. Well, we may not know exactly why, but that's how God designed and made it. The sun's rays provide vitamin D that keeps us healthy and functioning. Even a sunset provides hope, encouragement, and refreshment. When we view a photograph or painting of a sunset, we give kudos to the painter or photographer. How often do we ignore the Creator and the sunset He has given us day after day from the beginning of time? Every invention built by human hands was designed with a purpose in mind. It is illogical that all of the amazing, highly structured things on earth could exist without the specific involvement of a creator. I have an invention. I have a cart that I made. It's called a beach cart. It has specific designs. Everything about it is detailed, and it was designed. The shapes matter. Every part of its shape makes a difference. Vacuum cleaners. This is my great example, one of my favorite examples. They're ugly and odd-looking, but they are shaped, designed, and have a very specific purpose. Now, the new ones, the little ones that roll around the floor, those are better designed. You know, they're cooler, they're easier to use. You don't have to walk around and do it. They do it for you. But they're still just a vacuum cleaner with a very specific purpose. No sane human being would suggest that they shaped, designed, and created themselves. Yet this is exactly what atheistic science is telling you about the universe. You don't have to be an atheist. You just have to say, well, all designed itself. Out of nothing, everything came into being on its own for a specific reason and purpose. That's what they believe. That's what they're saying. It all happened without a reason and purpose. Again, it's just nonsense. I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but it's just true. It doesn't make any sense at all. Evidence 4. Mankind, life, living things. How were living things created and what caused them to come into existence? This question takes us back to where did matter come from on steroids? Not only do we have just inert dirt, right, or gypsum, which is amazing stuff anyway, isn't it? God made gypsum. We built our walls out of it, clay, all the things that gave us. The creation of life is far more complex and complicated than simple matter. Now, again, if you talk to a scientist or an atheist, and they'll atheistic scientists, they'll give you this thing that, well, like Richard Dawkins says, we don't, because he doesn't believe in a creator. And all of these guys, most all of them, I mean, Kaku has changed his perspective a little bit, but Darwin, all of these guys, it's not that they were all atheists, but they all believed God had nothing to do with the design and function and purpose of the universe. That was all done apart from him through some sort of natural process. So they're committed to believing that life had to be created somehow without God, right? So they have these theories in philosophy that are based on that underlying assumption that there is no that God is not involved in creation. The creation of life is more complex and complicated than simple matter. Neither could happen without a creator. Scientists speculate about the spark of life or creating life in a test tube. But what process could bring that about? Living things grow, develop, and change. This feature alone adds deep complexity to the existence of matter. DNA is now known to be four-dimensional. They used to call it junk DNA because it was all jumbled and looked like jumbled. They now know that in all that jumbledness, there's two little things that come together. They're meant to be there exactly like that. They function together. They do other aspects of the universe, or of life and functioning in the human body. The spark of life is not enough to create and sustain living things. Starting a fire in the wilderness is extremely difficult, even when you have the necessary elements in a pristine environment. If you manage with great difficulty to start a fire, it takes continual effort to keep the fire burning. So, where did the spark come from and how did it sustain itself? Consider creating life in a test tube, if that ever happens. Remember, it took place in a lab with pre-existing matter, a perfect environment, and a designer and creator. Somebody designed it and created it, caused it to happen. It didn't happen by chance without any being or intelligence causing it. In essence, it argues for a creator, not against one. Imagine the impossibility of all the things that need to happen for life and complex life forms to come into existence, and to grow into what we see today. Imagine the evolution of Adam and Eve. For Adam to evolve from a single entity, celled entity itself is impossible, or certainly beyond the stretch of imagination. However, that is only half the problem. Both Adam and Eve had to evolve separately, at the same time in perfect environments in which that they had heat, water, shelter, food, everything that it takes to sustain their existence. For all the randomness evolution calls for, we could just as likely ended up with Adam and Eve, and it would all been for nothing. So it's not just one life that had to evolve, but everything had to evolve from nothing, without any purpose, without any meaning, without any intelligent design before it. Finally, proof number 5 is mortality. Morality. Do absolute right and wrong exist? Are there absolute moral standards? If so, how do we determine what is right and wrong? Whose standard do we use to mete out justice and judgment? At this very moment, the world is engaged in a moral argument. Some support the terror group Hamas, saying that they had the right to murder in cold blood civilians, including beheaded babies of Jewish descent. Others are outraged at the atrocities and demand justice and eradication of all Hamas members and all terrorist groups. Others want Israel to be destroyed. Who gets to say? Who has the right to pass judgment on human actions? For example, one father may love and provide for his family while another abuses and neglects his. Who's to say which father has the right values? Well, we hope it's the one that takes care of his kids. But why? If there's no moral standard behind it, it doesn't really matter. It literally becomes survival of the fittest. Now, I'm more fit than you. I'm going to take what you have and keep it, and you can die and go off. It doesn't matter. Now, I don't believe that, and I'm not saying that's what you ought to believe. But I'm saying apart from there being some sort of moral standard that God has either put in us, and that the Creator put in us and calls us to action for, there has to be consequences for the behaviors that are happening right now. There has to be. Whatever side of the thing you're on, you got to say there's got to be consequences. Someone has to judge it. Who's to say which father has the right values? Well, almost everyone would support the first father. Without an objective source, it is a matter of opinion. Relativism says there's no absolute truth. Atheistic evolution removes any actual basis for truth. Michael Ruse, a noted agnostic philosopher of science, said, "The position of the modern evolution is that morality is a biological adaptation no less than our hands and feet and teeth. Considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something, ethics is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says, 'Love thy neighbor as thyself,' they think they're referring. Slow down. I appreciate that when somebody says, 'Love thy neighbor as thyself,' they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is illusory." I think he's right. Apart from a creator who made and owns everything, Apart from a creator who made and owns everything, he is correct. The only objective basis for morality must come from the one who made the laws on which the universe operates. Gravity is not personal. Jump off a building and see what happens. The law of impact will take over. Not just the laws of nature, but the laws of human interaction. If all actions are equal and merit the same reward, and our actions have no consequences, then life is without meaning. Who then determines the laws and constructs meant to rule our societies? Murder, theft, adultery, pedophilia, assault? Apart from a creator, there can be no objective morality. An atheist can live a relatively moral life. It just means that apart from a lawgiver and judge, he has no reason to do so. Now, what I think it's important to just touch on that just a little bit more. I know many Christians I don't consider they call themselves Christians, that I like their behavior. I've known many that had some really bad behaviors, right? I've known just normal people that have really bad behaviors. I've known normal people that aren't religious that have good behaviors. I know atheists that have good behaviors. I had a conversation at a book fair when I was selling my original book on creationism, and there was this guy there who was a former Christian. He was now an atheist, but he was selling at a Christian book fair. Anyway, that's fine. So he's selling his wares. He's doing this. So we're next to each other. So we had this long conversation. We talked for about 3 hours. So we wasn't necessarily a lot of people around all the time, but in and out of conversations with others, we talked with each other. And I was making the point with him. I said, look, he grew up in a Christian home, and he thinks somehow that he has these morals because he just has them. And I finally was able to show to him, and I think it's true, all of his morality, all the good things that he does came from his Christian upbringing. It all comes from there. The Judeo-Christian ethic is the ethic that really rules most of the world, and it's a good ethic. It's very good. It answers most questions, not all, but most of them. So I'm not saying that morality can't exist among atheists. Of course they can be moral, at least as far as it goes until you get into the law of the Torah, the Ten Commandments. They're not going to obey the first 4 commandments, 3 commandments, about know the gods before me and honor God first of all. But they can not steal. They don't have to be thieves. They don't have to be murderers. They don't have to be adulterers. They don't have to be, any of those things. They don't have to be coveters. They can behave well. I'm not saying that. That has nothing to do with it. The whole point is there an objective standard by which we are going to be judged? Now, I ask you this question. As a believer or a non-believer, do you look forward to being judged? And just think about that answer for a minute. And I'm going to say to you, most people say, no, I don't want to be judged. And then I ask them, well, do you ever judge others? Well, of course, yeah. I go to a restaurant, they don't serve me right, I'm never going back, right? We judge all the time. Our people around us, how they look at us, what they say, the conversation. We're constantly judging. And I say, you don't want to be judged? And I go, that's not true. You do want to be judged. But what you want to be judged at is a good person. You don't want people to think you're a bad father or a mother. You want them to think that you're really good. You're a baseball player, you want them to think that you're great and you're very kind and you sign a lot of autographs, all the stuff that a good guy does, right? You want everybody to think that you're good. But understand, to have a judgment of somebody being good, you have to have a judgment of something bad. There has to be a standard by which we judge things. That standard happens to be the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not murder. You're to love your father and mother. Honor your father and mother. You're to honor God. You're not to commit adultery. You're to be faithful to your spouse. Those are things that, all these things, all of the moral law written in the Torah are things that are great for humanity. The simple basic commandments are what literally keep the world from falling apart. Imagine if people say, why does God allow evil? Well, because he allowed us. Think of what happened if every human being on earth obeyed just the 10 Commandments. And that doesn't mean they had their own religion, but everyone worshiped the creator of the universe, the God of Adam, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Everyone worshiped him. Wouldn't have any religious wars. We'd all be following him. It would totally change most of our life. And so it's important that we understand, that there's judgment. Judgment is part of life. Without judgment, there's no meaning. If someone could kill my daughter or my wife or my friend, and there's no consequences for it, then their life didn't mean anything. You don't like eternal punishment, but what do you do? How do you do when you've taken away someone's eternal existence? You think there's no punishment for that? God is going to judge the world. And we need to understand that. We need to be prepared for that. We need to recognize our own hearts, what's inside of us. So what causes me to not believe in God? Maybe you had lots of bad things happen. I guarantee you that the best thing you could do, no matter how many bad things have happened to you, is to come to God and let him heal you and take care of you, because he does intervene in our lives. He intervenes through people, but he also intervenes in your spirit to spirit. He talks to you. Okay, so today we've talked about the 5 things. Matter exists, matter is designed and shaped, matter gives meaning and purposes, mankind, and morality. All of these together make a argument for God. And I think it's not just one, but it's all 5 of them together, to me, gives you an absolute argument for the existence of God. A creator is the only rational explanation for the existence of the universe and all living things. Well, listen, I hope that you've enjoyed this today. If you do, you can subscribe, like, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you find us. You can also watch this on our website on the live stream. You go to the live stream and there's a copy of it there. We'll have them posted as other videos at some point soon in podcasts. You can get them on, I think we're on Podbean, which means it's on YouTube. Oh, it's on YouTube as well. It's also on, I can't remember right now. It's going to be on Apple, but it's on SoundCloud and Spotify as well. And there's some others that's out there, Facebook. So we hope that you do this. If you like it, we'd appreciate it. If you have a question, if you want to talk to us, if you disagree with me, please send me an email, info@acts17accord.com. You can go to the website, send me an email, comment. If you disagree, we'd love to hear from you especially if you disagree. I'd like to go over it with you and explain where we're coming from. I thought I would end today. I'm going to play a song for you. And this is a song I wrote a number of years ago. And it's called Adonai Jehovah. And it just talks about creation and about God. I hope that you'll like this. I'll come back real quickly at the end and sign off. So here we go with Adonai Jehovah. Well, that didn't work. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen to start it with. So... Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. I bow down before your throne. You are my God. You are my King. Who is like you, Lord? Who can compare? Robed in beauty and majesty, you are the Holy Lord Almighty. You are the great I am. You are the great Creator, Lord of earth and sky and man. You are Adonai Jehovah, Elohim the mighty one, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Hey, 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 hey. I wait for you. You are my life. I need to hear the things you say. Who is like you, Lord? Who can compare? Robed in beauty and majesty, you are the Holy Lord Almighty. You are the great I am. You are the great Creator, Lord of earth and sky and man. You are Adonai Elohim, the mighty one, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. You are Adonai Jehovah, Elohim, the mighty one, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. You are Adonai Jehovah, Elohim, the mighty one, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah. Like you, oh Lord,
there is none like you.
who can compare,
None compares.
robed in beauty and majesty,
Majesty,
clothed in splendor and light.
God's pure love.
Who is like you, oh Lord,
There is none like you.
who can compare,
None compares.
robed in beauty and majesty,
Majesty,
clothed in splendor and light.
God's pure love.
Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I got my grandson Jonah here, and just thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know, like us, and follow us. God bless you. You have a great day, and we'll see you next Monday. We meet every Monday at 10 a.m. and at the same time, we're also the show's available to be seen in a number of different places. Anyway, you have a great day. God bless. Take care.